Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Advanced Guitar number 13. In this one, we're going to talk about using a pedal tone along with your kind of chords, but we're going to do a fun thing, and instead of using thirds, we're going to use sixths. We're going to invert the chords. We're also going to examine like what kind of shapes you would use then to imply like secondary dominance and stuff like that. Okay, so let's just start with the one chord. We're going to go with E major. So you can use the open E, that's our pedal tone. That thing is gonna keep going. Well, there's your octave, or two octaves, I guess, because you starting at the 14th fret of the D string with your pinky, and the 11th fret of the A string with your pointer finger, or whatever fingers you want to use. That's the way I do it. And that is technically the one chord. That is your E major chord. So then you can back it up to there, and you're implying your 7 chord. 1, 7. So think of your pinky. What your pinky's doing is the root. And you can just go down from 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you get this kind of cool little thing. The only thing is you just got to remember which ones are what sixth, like which shape you're supposed to be using. Okay, and in this case, I'll just run you through the shapes real easy. Use a minor sixth there, starting at the 11th fret with your pointer up to your pinky and leaving that E ring. Then you go back a whole step with your pointer, but use a major sixth. Then back another whole step with your pointer, use a major sixth again. Back a half step with your pointer, minor sixth. Whole step with pointer, minor sixth. Whole step with pointer, major sixth. And then whole step with pointer to 0 and major sixth again. Okay, and you're using the open E and a bunch of sixth shapes to do this thing here. Okay, and that's not super duper exciting. All we did was descend, but it's good to get the shapes in your hand and your head where they're at, and then kind of go bananas from there and start, making a piece of music out of it. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind when we're doing this thing here, where your pinky is technically the root of your chord. We're going to use a tritone to imply a diminished chord. By now you should know what a tritone is, but if you don't, we're going to cover it real quick. It's a power chord flattened. So if your pointer is at the 7th fret of the A string, then your middle finger is at the 8th fret of the D string, and you get that gnarly little sound. Okay, and that should want to open up to this thing here, this go up. So your secondary diminished of your first chord, where your pointer is at the 11 of the A and the 14 of the D, your diminished, implied diminished of 1 would be to go with the 12th fret of the A string and the 13th fret of the D string. Wants to open up to that. Now, it's not a secondary in that case because we're at the 1 chord and the 7 is the 7 of the key, right? But if you want to go, you just want to hear what that sounds like to have that in there, it's like this. Okay? Now, let's look at, say, a secondary dominant. So we're going to go from the 1 chord to the 6 chord. Now remember, the pinky is your root. So you got to make a tritone a half step down from it, and then, you know, down a string. So your root, there's your 7, and then go down a tritone from that, because we're trying to just use the low 3 strings. That's what we're after here. And you hear how it resolves. It wants to kind of open up and go there, which is what we're after. We want dissonance, resolution. Okay, and that works anywhere for your secondary diminished. You can just use that tritone, and that gives you the feel. Because a diminished chord, the 1, 3, and 5 are all in minor thirds, which causes it to be a 1, minor 3, flat 5. So you get that tritones. We're using the tritone to imply diminished chord. So then let's back her up. That chord, because of where our pinky is, and if you get lost, let's say you're more like comfortable with the low E string and not so much with what's going on the D, drop the octave from it, and then you can see like, oh, that's a B, that's the 5 chord. Okay, so that's your dominant, your 5 chord. And there's your 4 chord. So what would it be like if you went 5, secondary diminished 4? Okay, and that's how you kind of go about things like that. So I covered a lot, and I probably stumbled a lot on talking about it, unfortunately, but the idea here is to kind of flip it around a little bit, and we're going to do a few things, right? We're using a pedal tone, so that E is just cooking the whole time. And then we're using 6th instead of thirds, right? That's the 3rd, that's the 6th, same 2 notes. And we're using the secondary dominants in the midst of it. So you can use 3 strings and a couple of ideas like that to create something interesting, something musical and creative, and it takes you somewhere. And actually, I believe what I'm playing here, I can never put my finger on where I've heard it, but I know there's a classical piece or a cello piece or something that utilizes this idea of what I'm doing there, because the harmony of it sounds very familiar to me, but I can't place it. So maybe you can, and they're like, yeah, dummy, it's this. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But anyhow, that's all I wanted to talk about today, is just, you know, using these 6ths with pedal tone, use the tritone to imply, you know, diminished. Right? That's the diminished of the 3. So you could go from the 1 So there you go, guys. I'm gonna get off this subject now because I've been talking about it way too long and you're probably all bored anyway. But have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.